guys have something you've taken away that you especially want to ask people about, or a certain topic that sort of like relates to, university life or
I
Duke
mean,
life?
the first thing I can think of is Duke Engage pretty clearly. I mean, that program, you go to countries that are considered developing and you work with different people. Usually it's working with people in the community. So it's very interesting thinking about that program and in terms of colonialism and development and like history. How are we approaching these people who live in these places? How are we looking at their lives? Are we questioning how they're feeling and looking at it from their point of view? Because the program does have, it's a good program for getting people to think about, these different issues, but it's also like, are we thinking about them from a colonial standpoint, or are we thinking about them from these people are more primitive, or are we actually trying to create an exchange of information, which I'm not sure it actually does. So, like, that would be something to ask people about, I imagine.
Yeah, and like my question about Duke Engage is like, the thing that concerns me is that there's no sort of requirement or like any kind of process before you go.
Right.
So like, I mean, you literally don't know anything about, you could potentially know nothing about the culture.
Right.
And you're coming in as like...
Exactly, and they think just because we're from Western civilization,
America.
You can do
exactly,
this.
you can do
Right.
this. Like, you don't need any prerequisites, just like
Yeah.
being from Western culture qualifies you to go to a developing country and help them, which is crazy.
It is I think it's definitely a structural problem where we sort of view ourselves as, we are, the beacon of civilization, the beacon of progress, of change, and we sort of think like, oh, we can go in there and we can fix it, which necessarily, I don't know if it's broken.
As an upper level university, like as like a higher university, like a renowned university that like a lot of people know about, like Duke Engage is considered like this great thing that is going to help people.
Right. People apply to this school because of this program.
And then the other thing is, it's like, we're defining what a problem is. So
right.
we're saying, okay, there's a problem in, wherever.
Exactly.
Like, that's coming from a completely westernized standpoint. Like, that might not be a problem for them.
It might just be the way like it is.
Right. I remember when I went to Guatemala for Duke Engage, and we did work with a lot of Mayan peoples, indigenous Mayan peoples, but it was funny because a lot of the things that we were trying to do, we were like building a website for one thing, and we were like updating the menu of a restaurant for another, but it's not like they were having a lot of trouble before we came in and did that. So it's just like us coming in, they're like, you go do something for these people.
Yeah.
Well, do these people...
They assume they need a new website.
Right. Whereas like in the end, actually, I ended up learning a lot about like culture there, and I think I actually got a lot more out of it than they probably got out of me.
Which is a problem in itself, if you think about it. Like, we're using communities to let us learn about them. And like, that brings up like something that I immediately thought of when taking this course, service learning at Duke. And like, we're not going overseas in service learning, but we have classes where we, partner with the community, and really what ends up happening, like, I've had a lot of experience in the service learning program, and like, what ends up happening is it's the students that are benefiting from the program, and people that you're supposedly helping,
don't actually receive the benefits.
Yeah.
I would definitely be interested to see what people have to say about Duke Engage and about service learning.
I'm sure people have like considered it a little bit in this like state, but like it would be interesting to get individual people's opinions on it.
Yeah.
Not just an editorial.
Okay, was there something that stood out to you that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, well, since I'm a senior, I'm in my last year of like sociology, so I'm taking a lot of classes that focus on like societal norms in general, and I feel like throughout the semester we learned about a ton of norms for indigenous culture. So I feel like it would be interesting to see what Duke students have to say about like the norms of this campus and like how Western and like colonialized this specific campus is, and to just kind of interview them and see how different it is with like the fluid norms and the cultural aspects of the indigenous people, with like how structured we are here and like the right way to do things.
Right.
So
that came up a lot. I feel like this how differently we think, and even things I didn't even think about in terms of like gender writing or like talks about.
I definitely think with sort of like gender norms and the way our social structure is at Duke. I mean, like we've got like Greek life with sororities, fraternities. We've got like this sort of like innate built-in system that sort of promotes if you are a man, you are you're masculine. You go to the gym a lot.
Yeah.
You are really like you're really aggressive, or not necessarily aggressive, but sort of you're assertive. Like you get what you want.
You're like strong.
Whereas if you are a woman, you're probably like smaller. Like more into like
the object of like the male gaze. like
Yeah.
big time. That's
Yeah.
You're working out
huge
to
on
look
campus.
cute and not
Yeah.
like that strong.
Whereas with like this stuff that we were talking about this semester was a lot more based on, fluid, not even like norms. It was sort of like, you are human. This is who you are. It wasn't, you don't have to be sort of like either one of the spectrum or the other. It's sort of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you can sort of be like whoever you are. It's not even so much like a linear spectrum as it is sort of like
Yeah.
a mixture.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, you have more experience in this, like, this area than I do, but I feel like even the people that are different at Duke get categorized into a binary of, multiculturalism and, like, difference.
Mm-hmm.
That means
So,
you're
like,
different.
There's
Yeah.
no space for, like, existing outside of the binaries on campus,
And-
you know?
Right.
I would definitely agree. And I think sort of like, like the LGBT center, it's sort of like you are like gay, lesbian,
Yeah.
bisexual, transgender. There's no like outside of that.
And even
Yeah,
that, that's
it's
like a group.
homonormative.
Like you are an LGBT like student, and that's what
Yeah.
you like
Yeah,
have to
it's-
be.
It's homonormative.
If
and-
you're
Right,
gay, you
right,
act a
right.
certain way.
We're like
you are this
obsessed
kind
with labeling
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
like
labels
we
are
need
big.
to define people,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's
of,
like a huge theme here. That, like,
Definitions.
what sorority are you in? Like, oh, what's your major? Like, oh, what's this? Like, people are
Yeah.
like obsessive about like categorizing people on campus so that it's all structured and it's not like it's very, very Western.
Right.
I-
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say like that's something that I really enjoyed this semester is talking about like it doesn't have to be that way, and I really like to see what other people like on campus actually think
Yeah.
about
It
that.
reminds me of
Yeah.
like Soup to Queer Mother, what that
Yeah.
article we read, and just talking about how there's so many depictions in like especially Incan culture about just transgender individuals or whatever you would call them being part of very important rituals, and like the way that women are portrayed in myths is very like fluid and different and very assertive, and so it's
Yeah.
just it was really cool because
Yeah.
I felt like you don't even think that a culture could have thought that way. I feel like coming from this perspective, you're like, oh, this is something that's very progressive,
Yeah.
like for our culture. But in reality, it's just they just had that way of thinking. It's completely
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting.
So I think we definitely have some great ideas of what we want to ask people.
Yeah.
But do we have sort of any goals that we would like to go with moving forward when we're going to talk to these people? I for one just sort of feel like we should go to sort of do what we've been doing in this class and sort of promote discussion,
Yeah.
promote questioning.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I had never even thought about a lot of these things
Mm-mm.
before, and so
Mm-mm.
even just like asking them questions, it's not like we're looking for an answer in particular, we just want to I just am interested in hearing what other people think about this,
Yeah.
and it'd be great if we could make them consider something that they had never considered before.
Right. Or say like, I never thought about it that
Yeah,
way,
like
or
learning
something, which
people
I really
that-
hope you hear.
Yeah, like the way that they learned about stuff or thought about stuff isn't common sense, and it's not necessarily how everyone thinks about something.
Yeah.
It's not normal.
Yeah.
Open, just at least open up their thought process to a different way of doing things.
Right.
Yeah.
Because everyone talks about Duke being such a you meet all these new people and it's this
Yeah.
open learning center, but there's still so many things I feel like
There's
that we don't think about.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of progress we can still make. I think.
Right.
Even just the idea of complementarity, which is huge in indigenous cultures, living, with other people. There's such a competitive spirit on campus,
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very foreign to a lot of us to think of it in terms of helping others, so that we can help ourselves
Very
as well. So that we all,
individualistic,
yeah,
Mhm.
a sort of buen vivir kind of idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah,
That's
definitely.
awesome.
I'm really looking forward to seeing
Yeah.
what people have to say.
Yeah, and
Me
just
too.
spark their
We've got a
minds.
nice list of questions.
We
now,
do.
so
I
Yeah.
think we've
Great.
got some good stuff down.
So I guess we'll wait and see what they have to say.
yeah.
Awesome.
All right.